There were some trades to be announced. Not a whole lot on this day. Probably one of the quietest NHL trade deadline days ever, granted because everything else happened before. So we'll talk about what the Sharks have done, what's next for the Sharks. You might like the outcome of such trade because it brings up one of the Sharks' most beloved prospects up to the NHL. Let's talk about it right now here on Teal Town Live. Good afternoon. It is March 3rd, 2023. It is 1 o'clock over here on the West Coast, and the trade deadline has officially passed. So we welcome you to Teal Town Live, your live interactive post-trade deadline show. So if you want to be part of the show, join us in the chat, fellow hockey fans all over the world, and of course in Sharks territory. Use that YouTube page or the app to interact with us. Follow us on our social channels. You can find everything at tealtownusa.com. And, of course, if you want to support the podcast, you can Venmo us at tealtownusa or hit us up on a YouTube Super Chat. So, everything is done. Mr. Ian Reed, good afternoon to you, sir. After everything occurred like a week or two beforehand.
Yeah, this is probably, as far as like for trade deadlines, I mean, I will come on here, and I've already kind of eaten crow on this, and I'll eat crow again. I thought this trade deadline was going to be pretty boring. I didn't think a lot of big things were going to happen. But in the weeks leading up to trade deadline, I think we had a crazy amount of movement given the cap being what it is and the uncertainty with the cap. Every year it feels like they say, oh man, this is the year the cap's going up $5 million. And then It's like, when it comes time to actually do the cap, it's like, it's $1 million, right? So we've been hearing this kind of for a while now. And obviously there's definitely some uncertainty heading into next season with the RSN bubble, basically not even just bursting. I think it's collapsing,
big time,
disintegrating. So I'm surprised how much movement we got based on what was going on, but the day itself, not the most riveting of television.
It's always a fun day to kind of watch Trade Center, or whether it's Free Agent Frenzy, and usually they have something to fill the time. But I feel for them today on this one. I mean, yikes,
rough.
It was rough. Well, let's get to what the Sharks did. First things first, of course, if you hadn't heard or you've been away for forever, the Sharks traded Timo Meier, but that's a whole video that Ian and I, along with Kevin and Mark did over the weekend, so you can check that out. Thank you very much for the support on that. But as for today, we'll begin with what Dana and I kind of talked about last night during After Dark. We as Uncle Danfy says in the chat, hug watch was something last night, and there was, Nick Bonino was getting hugs and kind of suspected something to happen. Sharks announced this about like 2.5 hours ago, at about 10:30 this morning. But TSN had this at 6:10 in the morning. Granted, not all the pieces. So through essentially 3 separate transactions.
Yeah.
The Sharks get the rights to Arvid Henriksson from Montreal. They get the Penguins 2023 7th-round pick. They get a 2024 5th-round pick from the Penguins. Montreal gets Tony Sund and the Sharks 2024 5th-round pick for being the broker in the deal. And the Penguins acquire Nick Bonino as Montreal retains 50% salary on this deal. So your thoughts on this one?
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, obviously the 2024 could become a 4th if I think the Penguins make the Eastern Conference Finals.
Correct.
Godspeed to that.
Yeah, good luck.
The only real issue I have in this trade is that they used a broker. Now, maybe they thought they had something else. You can only retain salary on so many deals, right?
Right.
I'm maybe they thought they had something else in the works that was going to happen, but the Sharks could have just as easily retained that money on Nick Bonino and kept the pick.
Exactly.
Right. Like that's the thing that kind of head scratches there. I mean, obviously Tony's son for Henriksen, like those are just, I believe those are both just dead contracts going each way. Henriksen is a guy who I think is just going to, he's a guy who's currently playing for Lake State University, right just across the bridge from me. And he's a 25-year-old defenseman who has never really put up points. He's a big shutdown guy, but I think he's a guy that come August 15th is a UFA. I don't think that the Sharks, who knows? I mean, the Sharks do love their big guys, and this guy's like 6'5". But to me, this is a guy that they just walked to free agency on August 15th when the college signing period starts.
Yeah, this guy has 9 points in his 4 years at Lake Superior State, and just roughly adding up 92, 119, like over 160 penalty minutes in his 4 years at Lake Superior State. Yeah, this is obviously just a throw in because they had to throw it in. Same thing with the Sund.
Yeah, again, you have to move contracts around in order to. There's a weird rule when it comes to retaining salary. If you're just retaining like that, there has to be a contract that moves, which is why you're seeing like a lot of guys that are probably either not going to get qualifying offers, or guys who are like pending, guys who are going to graduate from the American college system and probably not get a contract before the August 15th deadline. So yeah, a lot of just nothing parts, dead contracts, as I like to call them. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what it is.
Yep. So that's how that works out with Bonino gone. You get some good news, and we'll credit Shang and JD from San Jose Hockey Now and Locked On, respectively. They were the first to report that William Eklund is getting called up to the Sharks. He, in fact, was practicing with the Sharks as of an hour ago. So, and I know there's some that are not thrilled about it because I'm the beatplug _831 bringing up Eklund right now. It's not good. Just 2 points out of last place.
Okay. Yeah. But like, so here's let's have some real talk with Ian right now. Right. And I hate to do this because I love William Eklund. I think William Eklund has absolutely earned his call up.
Absolutely.
But William Eklund has been on the San Jose Barracuda all year, and they are the 4th worst team in the American Hockey League.
But they're battling for a playoff spot, Ian.
Yeah, okay, no, that's true. That is true. Look at,
I say that sarcastically, of course.
Yes, I love William Eklund, and I think this call-up is well-deserved.
Absolutely.
Do I think that the Sharks are William Eklund away from going on a run? No. I mean, have you seen them play the last couple of games? I think William Eklund is again, I like this player a lot. And you want to like talk reality without making it sound like I don't like William Eklund and I don't think he's a good player. I think he's a great player. He's easily the tippy top of the Sharks prospect pyramid. But I don't think that William Eklund probably, and again, like I want to see what kind of minutes he gets. I want to see what kind of role David Quinn puts him in. I don't know if William Eklund on his own is going to start winning this team hockey games.
No. Where do you think they'll slot him in? Third line center?
No, if you're going to play William Eklund, you are putting him in the top 6. You are playing him with either Hurdle or you're playing with Couture. And in the chat, why now? Look at these guys have busted their ass on the AHL team all year. This is when, when you start moving guys out, this is when you start rewarding that play. Another important note here is William Eklund is slide eligible. So he could play 9 games for the Sharks this year. They could send him back down and slide his contract one last time until next year, where it'll kick in regardless of what happens. So, I think we're going to see kind of a rotating, I think, we'll probably see Eklund for a few games, and then we'll probably see Bortolo for a few games. I think we're going to see a rotating group of guys, unless, William Eklund takes that spot and doesn't let it go, then maybe they say, well, whatever. But I think even then, like, you probably push that contract one more year, right? I don't think you start his ELC like you did with Thomas Bordeleau last year, where they kind of put, when they signed Bordeleau to his contract and then they played him, obviously that started his entry level contract and there was no slide there. I don't think William Eklund's up for the long haul. I think he's going to get a nice little addition where, the Sharks will kind of just see how much progress he's made playing against NHL competition, and then I think he goes back down and and helps the Barracuda with their push.
Yeah, I think you'll get a lot of guys that are AHL eligible that will probably go down to.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of guys because I think Eklund's the only one that's a slide guy. All the other ones, their contracts are ticking. So I think you're going to see a guy like Thomas Bordeleau definitely get to come up at some point and play. I'm not too worried. I would be shocked. Like I said, I will be shocked if Eklund stays up more than 10 games and burns a year off his contract. I don't think that's the play at all. But maybe if he does really well, they reward him. I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see. But I think right now it's this is when we expected to kind of start seeing guys get called up to get opportunities to be rewarded for their play. Because William Eklund, I think, had a slow start this season, but he's been really, really good ever since.
Yeah, he's really come on lately.
He's super come on. He's playing like he's definitely the guy that he's playing like the guy that we thought we had drafted, 7th overall a couple years back. So I think he's the guy that you want to. You got to reward these guys at some point, and this is the time in the season when you start rewarding guys, and you also not only start rewarding guys, but you start looking. The Sharks are now obviously this year's over. They're looking to next year. They're looking at, which guys do they think are going to slot in certain positions next year. William Eklund's obviously going to be a guy in that mix who they want to be a player next year. They're going to give him an opportunity to see what they have so they can start making plans for next season.
Yeah, and I think that's a good call on you, that it's not just going to be Eklund, but you're definitely going to see a lot more of these kids come up. I'm curious if
I don't know how many. Like, I think Eklund and Bordeleau are both going to get a chance to come up and play. I don't know if a guy like Daniil Gushkin does, but we'll see. Yeah, or Robbins. Like, I don't know if those guys are definitely going to get a chance to come up, but I think Eklund and Bordeleau should get an opportunity to play some games with the Sharks this year.
They've absolutely deserved it. Eklund with 41 points on the season, 17 goals, 24 assists. When he was with the Sharks in that first part of last season, it's just scary to think how long it's been since he's been up with the Sharks.
Yeah.
He had 4 assists, and the team, I thought, looked pretty good, and they even got out to that 4-0 start. So fingers crossed, if the magic can happen for William Eklund. That's most likely what happens with the spot that Bonino spot gets moved to Eklund for now. So
yeah, and again, like I don't know. I think like the Bonino trade's fine. Like it's getting assets is fine. They could have retained cap themselves. That's the only thing. It's the only thing that I kind of have a meh about that trade. They have the cap space. They could have retained Bonino and kept that extra 5th round pick. But whatever.
That's the big one for me, is that you could have saved something, but yeah, they probably had something up their sleeve. I know,
right? I am not in the war room with Mike Greer. I don't know what else they were working on. So, again, I'm not an insider. I'm a slapdick with the YouTube account.
Oh, geez. Moving onward to kind of a 3-way trade of sorts, and I hope Namestnikov got a lot of airline points in this one. So earlier in the week, Vladislav Namestnikov comes to the Sharks in exchange for Mikey Asimont. Tampa retaining salary there as well, but earlier today, probably like 10 minutes after they announced the trade of Bonino, the Sharks also announced that they acquired a 5th round pick in 2024 for Namestnikov going to Winnipeg. Thoughts on this one? This is kind of why we didn't really talk about it, and make a separate video on it, because we kind of had a feeling it was going to be a flip for Namestnikov.
Yeah, I was, as much as I wanted to do 4 hours on Mikey Samant, it wasn't appropriate yet. Yeah. So look at getting anything for Easemont's kind of a win because he was a guy that you picked up on waivers, right?
Right.
Easemont's guy picked up on waivers, 26 years old. He probably is what he is at this point. Look, I liked Mike Easemont on this team. I liked what he brought to the team. But he's a guy. Like I think ultimately he's a guy. So to get anything for him, I think is a win. Obviously, I wouldn't have loved it if they couldn't find a home for Namestnikov. If you move Easemont for Namestnikov at 50% and then don't do anything else with it, that would have been incredibly problematic to me. But basically, turning a guy into a fifth, that you turn nothing into a fifth. That's a win to me.
Yeah.
It's fine, right? I don't know. Like again, I like Mike Easemont, but I think Sharks fans kind of overvalued him, and I think the coaching staff also incredibly overvalued what he brought to the team.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. 6 goals, 9 assists, 15 points for Namestnikov going to Winnipeg. He'll be a little bit of a depth move there for the Winnipeg Jets as they try to make their playoff push, and they're currently fighting in the wild card spot in the West. So we'll see how that goes.
They've kind of tumbled around, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there because they've really tumbled.
Yeah. Braden Smith with the $5 super chat donation. Thank you very much, as always. Thoughts on the Reedy deal? I know it's small, but it seems like a win. Y'all are the best. Braden, thank you very much. To recap it, this one's just a simple 1-for-1. Thank God.
Yep.
Jacob Peterson goes to San Jose for Scott Reedy. And, we were talking before we got on the air about this one. Reedy really, to me, didn't get too much of a big chance, except for, really for last year.
Yeah. I don't know. A lot of people that I converse with regularly are a lot higher on Scott Reedy than I am. I like Scott Reedy, don't get me wrong. But I don't think I think he's had a little bit of a disappointing season with the Barracuda this year. When you look at it, and I watch the Barracuda a lot, but I wouldn't call myself an AHL fan. So Texas does not play in we do have some games. The Barracuda have some games against Texas coming up in the next couple of and over the next their last 20 games. Sorry. But other than that, I haven't really seen Texas play. I mean, numbers wise, it looks like a nice upgrade for the Barracuda. You're getting a nice left shooting center, 13 goals, 13 assists, 26 points on one of the best teams in the AHL. I think they're first in their division last I checked, in the AHL Central Division. So, I mean, it's definitely a nice player to pick up. But I don't have a ton to say on this because I haven't seen the player play a ton of games. So I don't really want to, just look at numbers alone and be, well, this is great. It looks on the outside, on a surface level, it looks great. I'm looking forward to seeing him play and see what he brings.
Yeah. Last season with the Dallas Stars, he played 65 games. He had 12 goals, 5 assists, 17 points. I did play in 3 of their playoff games. With Texas, he didn't do too much. 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 for the Texas Stars last year. So
yeah, only 6 games though.
Yeah, only in 6 games. So we'll see what happens on that one. Might be just a death move for a push.
I think it's anytime. Look at Mike Greer has come in, and obviously he's probably identifying guys that he likes in the system and guys that he doesn't, and he's been pretty vocal about not really being happy with the Sharks prospect pool. So I'm, moves like this I have no issue with. If you think that you can, find another guy who maybe is further along in their development than one of your guys, I think it's a nice trade. Like on the surface, this looks all very good. I don't want to say this is a home run hit out of the park when I haven't really seen, Peterson play a whole lot of hockey.
Yeah, so it remains to be seen as to what the Sharks will do with him. I would assume most likely he's headed to the Barracuda. And yeah, Dallas is.
Well, you never know with everything going on right now. You don't know that for sure.
That's for sure. I mean, Martin Kaut coming up. You've had, CJ Cease come up. This might be a guy to fill in here and there. I mean, when David Quinn wants to scratch Kevin LeBanc, I mean, that's now we kind of covered all three trades. We can kind of cover what didn't happen. And
yeah, I was going to say that's a good segue to what did happen to what did not happen.
Yeah, so Kevin LeBanc is still a San Jose Shark. James Reimer was on the ice earlier, and I think it was Reimer, Sturm, and Kakinen were on the ice, and then they were pulled off, which caused a little bit of a the Twitter rumble. But they were all, I would assume, just told, "Hey, we're all here."
They showed them when that was reported. I think it was Pichelka reported that, and then my GIF response to that was Brent Burns with the "You're stuck here forever" sign.
You're not wrong, unfortunately.
Just remember, you're here forever. The thing is with these guys, I'm going to start with James Reimer because I think James Reimer is the easiest in this situation. No one the goaltending market was. I didn't think James Reimer was going to move because I think the goaltending, the teams looking for goaltenders were few and far between, and they probably weren't going to pay the price that some teams were asking for what was going to essentially be a depth goalie, right? I'm surprised, maybe a team like Toronto might have sniffed around, but I think if you're one of these teams, there was other goalies that have had, that are probably, I don't want to say better goalies, but maybe preferable goalies for teams. I think a team, if they really wanted a goalie, do you get James Reimer? Do you get Cam Talbot? Depends on what the ask is, right? But with no goalies really moving, I think the market was really soft for goalies this year. And I love James Reimer, man. Everyone knows that I love James Reimer, but James Reimer hasn't had a particularly amazing season. Yes, the team in front of him is ass, but that didn't stop him from being outstanding last year. So yeah, am I surprised James Reimer is still here? No, I pretty much thought the whole time that James Reimer was probably still going to be a Shark. As the deadline approached, I was pretty much set in my belief that James Reimer would be a Shark when this was over.
Yeah, and Corey Masisak just tweeting out just a moment ago, James Reimer admitted he had hoped to get a chance to chase the Stanley Cup like Nick Bonino. He said it was unfortunate that nothing came to fruition. Talked to his agent a few times in recent weeks, but said it sounded like nothing was ever imminent. That's a bummer because Reimer played his butt off last year, and I've said it numerous times. There was a potential that he could have been a goaltender for the Pacific Division in last year's All-Star game, and he had some injuries, he had some illness that kept him out for a bit. Plus, his play was struggling a bit too. So that's a tough one on that one.
Yeah, it sucks, but I just don't think there was a market. Again, what goalie got moved? Jonathan Quick was the only goalie that got moved, and now Jonathan Quick is his best years are certainly behind him at this point. But if you look at the pedigree of guys to get moved around, like Jonathan Quick, Cam Talbot, James Reimer, one of these things is not like the other.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not surprised. Even where Jonathan Quick is in his career right now, I'm not surprised by this.
Yeah, it's not surprising, but at the same time frustrating because you might have gotten something last year if something came.
I don't think the market was that hot last year either, though. Goalies, I've always said this, goalies at the trade deadline, unless it's something unless it's like a big super goalie, they get nothing. Depth goalies get shit at the deadline.
No, oh yeah, they don't get moved for like big name pieces unless you're a massively big name. I mean, look, even Thatcher Demko was out there and that didn't get going, but I think Vancouver kind of pushed them to try to get something in there. So we'll see on that. Nico Sturm, of course, he won a cup last year. He's been one of the bright spots on the Sharks team. I'm surprised there wasn't anything that was rumored out there.
He's not a rental.
True. His
Yes,
contract's
he has
up for
another year left. Yeah, he has another year left. What is it? 2 years left on his deal?
I believe so.
Like he wasn't a rental, right? So I think teams probably called, but again, I think there's a lot of teams right now that are doing a lot of things that are going to be like, well, we'll worry about the cap tomorrow after the playoffs, and so I think a guy like Nico Sturm, like I think there's probably teams that were probably interested, but again, do you want to? I don't think there's some players on this team where I think I'm fine with paying them not to play for you. I don't think Nico Sturm should be one of those guys.
Yeah. Shang mentioning now, Eklund was unaware that the Sharks had acquired Jacob Peterson. Big smile when Shang told him. Knows him from national teams on the Swedish team. Says he's a great guy.
Yeah, look,
we got a great guy. Cool.
I am looking forward to seeing him play. I haven't seen enough of him to come on here and just like. Yeah, I think the one thing when we do this, right, and I think the one mistake that a lot of people make when they come on and try to do something like we do here is they're afraid to say I don't know. But if that's the answer, that should be the answer. And like from here, like I said, on the surface, for anyone who missed it, on the surface, I really like this trade, but I haven't watched the player play enough to have a solid opinion on him. So I'm not going to come on here and tell you how the Sharks, blew this out of the water when I don't know. That's just the reality. I apologize. I can only watch so much hockey.
How dare you?
I know.
And then Derek Pouliot cleared waivers today. So
yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit nervous there because Derek Pouliot obviously has been on an AHL deal all year, but right. I was just like, one, I think there's a couple of things on that. So Derek Pouliot signs an NHL contract with the going to the end of the season. To me, that says a couple of things. One, it says that Knyzhov is staying on the Barracuda.
Yep.
And he's not coming up this year because I think if Knyzhov was in the plans to come up this year, you don't sign Derek Pouliot to an NHL contract, even if it's just to reward him for being a soldier for the Barracuda this year. So him coming up, I was worried though. I was worried that some team, because look it never underestimate a GM's lust for big depth defensemen. And so I was a little nervous a team might scoop Pouliot up. Not for the Sharks, but I was just worried because I think the Barracuda have looked significantly worse on their blue line. Like I think losing Pouliot off that blue line, even with Ohutia coming in from the Devils in the trade with Timo Meier, I think that would have been a big loss for that blue line, even if for a guy who might come up and play some games in the NHL. I'm not sure what the plan there is.
Yeah.
Or if if they're just going to call him up and make him be the seventh guy. I don't know. I think they have the Barracuda fan in me says, God, why? But we know the score here. Obviously, we know what the Barracuda's role is within the organization. And making the playoffs is good, and the Barracuda, they're in the hunt. They're currently not in the playoffs, but they're in the hunt. And if you go back, there's a show that me and Kevin did earlier in the week where we kind of laid out why we think the Barracuda can make the playoffs and why they missed. So if you do want more details on that, I don't want to get too into the weeds on this show, but we definitely did that show. It's a couple of shows ago. If you go back onto either your feed here on YouTube, or if you go into your podcast stream, it's a TTG. It's in there somewhere. Check it out, and we'll talk all about the Barracuda there.
Yep. As of right now, the Cuda are at 21, 26, and 1-4. They have 47 points. Tucson holds down the 7th spot in the Pacific at 52 points. So Cuda have some work to do right now.
And Bakersfield are right there too.
Yeah,
I
and
think they have to-
Bakersfield's in 6 right now, and then there's a big jump when you get into Ontario, Colorado,
Correct.
Abbotsford, and then Coachella, Calgary, the former Stockton Heat in first place. That heck of a job there. But San Diego dead last. Okay,
Yeah.
I digress. What surprised you today or within the last couple of weeks, especially since most of the moves were done beforehand?
I'm just surprised by the number of big names that moved. I think that's the thing that surprised me the most was the amount of big. I thought it was going to be like a lot of fringe stuff. So I think a lot of the big names being taken off the trade board, I think was the most surprising thing to me. The amount of money that got moved this trade deadline, I think, is what surprised me the most. Yeah, I think that would be it. Like there's a lot of moves that I didn't think when this trade deadline was coming, I thought, man, this is going to be the worst trade deadline in the history of trade deadlines. And today certainly was. Yeah. But the lead up to it was anything but. I think it was far more interesting than I think it had any right to be.
Right. No, you hit it on the head. I mean, you had like Tarasenko, Patrick Kane, going to the Rangers. Of course, Timo goes to New Jersey. Toronto bolsters up. I think they have like 6 new players on the ice last night against Calgary. It's like
yeah, like teams like that, right? Like teams where you're like, oh, everyone's really tight against the cap, and the amount of moves I think that a lot of these top teams were able to make. It surprised me again. Like I will totally eat crow about it now because this is a trade deadline where I thought nothing was going to happen. I thought, maybe Timo Meier gets moved because that makes sense, right? And Patrick Kane, I think, was probably going to get moved as well. But as far as like some of the big changes that a lot of the Stanley Cup contenders made, I did not see that coming at all.
Yeah, Bunting. I'm sorry, Lafferty, and Jake McCabe. I mean, I had no idea that they would be able to fit into Toronto's salary cap. I mean, it's crazy. Heck, Orlov has been. I mean, they're calling him freaking Bobby Orlov in Boston. Like, really? He's no Bobby Orr, as PK would tell you.
Is.
I mean, that pick has been great along with Hathaway, and then why can't I think of who the Bruins also got just the other day?
I'm drawing a blank. So there's been, like I said, there's been so many moves where I have been trying to pay attention. I'm just trying to keep locked down.
Tyler Bertuzzi. That's what I was. Yeah, that's it. Tyler Bertuzzi was the one that they just got the other day. And they put Hall on LTIR. So
there you go.
Yeah, we'll see on that. Yeah, it's been an interesting one, and honestly, I'm just surprised how one-sided it's been over in the East and in the West. It's like, we'll give you stuff.
The East was it's really weird when you see this because like the East obviously, and I think that like the Eastern Conference playoffs are going to be great. Do I think could a Western Conference team still win the Cup? Yeah, because I think after teams get through the East, like I'm curious to see what they have left when they face whoever's going to come out of the West. But the Eastern Conference playoffs, I cannot wait for. I'm super excited to watch this go down, especially when playoffs are so much better. Playoffs are better when you have a rooting interest, but they can be just as fun when you don't. When a conference like just looks that good.
Yes, and practically the matchups are already set in the East. It's just a matter of who's going to get the wild cards and get swept by Boston in round 1.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, that's pretty crazy. I mean, you're going to have Rangers and Devils. You're going to have Lightning and Leafs again. The West intrigues me.
A lot of good teams going home in the first round.
Exactly. I guess if you are rooting for Timo, you don't root for him this year. You root for him next year, because once New Jersey pretty much clinches a playoff spot, that'll assure that the Sharks get the Devils' first round pick for this year as opposed to next year, where was it just top 2 protected?
Top 2 protected, like follow. Like they're gonna nosedive that far down in the standings. Like, could you imagine? Oh,
They just have to get to what, a number 11, and they have a shot.
True, but could you imagine like just the absolute kamikaze run they would have to go on in order to drop that low in the standings?
Yeah.
Like,
very true. And yeah, what was it? Ricky Bartonslager in the chat. Did you guys see the brothers trade Nick for Brett Ritchie?
Did they just trade houses? That's what I would do.
Right? Just share the house. Here. You have my house. I'll have your house. And enjoy. That's crazy. Troy Stetcher was in that deal with it as well. That's got to be awkward. Hey,
Yeah.
bro, I'm coming to Calgary. Yeah, I'm going to Arizona. Okay.
I feel bad. Who wants to go to Arizona? Not me.
Yeah, well, unless it's just a vacation wise, Let's see, what else is there that really popped in my head? I mean, do you have is there even a front runner for the East besides Boston? I mean,
everyone is so good over there. Like, there's, like, you look at what New Jersey's done. I like what they've done. But they got to play the Rangers in the first round. The Rangers I like what they've done, and the Rangers have, in my opinion, the best goalie in the league.
Yeah.
With all due respects to Andrei Vasilevsky. Yeah, I mean, look at, again, and then Tampa has also one of the best goalies. Like, there's so many good teams out there. I have no idea. I'm not looking forward to putting together that bracket this off season.
That's not going to be fun. Tucker, they did it to save money on creating New Jerseys.
Yeah.
Ricky saying, Arizona added Voracek too. Team never actually played for us. Yeah. Oh boy. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be very interesting to see what happens league wise. Playoff races are gonna be nice. I mean, that Western race, I know, like, the Western team would only be ranked 6th in the East. Yeah, but it's still an intense race right now. In there. I mean, you have why can't I pull it up? I mean, you have, and my eyes are going bad all of a sudden. I mean, Winnipeg is at 72, holding on the last wild card. Edmonton and Seattle are tied at 74. LA and Vegas are tied at 78. Oh, that's gonna be awkward if Vegas and LA advance into round 2 with Jonathan Quick.
That's obviously a playoff round that I would like to watch. I think Vegas would beat the Kings, but yeah, that would be a fun playoff round, right? Look at it's going to be fast. Like, again, you look at the Pacific Division specifically. I think there's some fascinating matchups there. Like, LA Seattle would be an interesting matchup because I'm not sure either team is long for this world in the playoffs, but by virtue of pulling each other, like, this is where I think teams like in the East can get super cranky, right? Because they look at a team like Los Angeles and Seattle, who I think both don't look like they're really set up for a deep run. And one of those two teams is going to make it to the second round if the playoffs started today.
Right. I mean,
right. So yeah, it's some fascinating stuff for sure.
I mean, as much as I would love to see Quick go up against Vegas, it'd be great to see Seattle do what the Sharks did, almost 30 years ago and go in with house money and then just shock the world. But
yeah, I'm for sure. The West is going to be fun. I'm surprised how far Winnipeg has kind of tumbled of late, but the West is going to be fun, but it's not going to be the East.
That's for sure. Chris, it's good to see you, buddy. We miss you over here. Less than 10 subs to 3K.
Yeah.
Get your mom and her mom to subscribe as well. So
It's true.
appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And hit that notification bell.
I think another player, though, kind of looping this back to trades, and I see this coming up in the chat too. Erik Karlsson is a fascinating player when it comes to the deadline, because I wasn't sold that Erik Karlsson was going to move, especially once Ekholm went to Edmonton. The thing with this, though, is I wonder if I know this would have been a complicated trade to accomplish because of all the cap implications and whatever, but I don't know, man. I think if Edmonton had a serious deal on the table for Erik Karlsson, I wonder if Mike Grier kind of screwed himself by not taking it. Because a lot can change between now and the summer, obviously. But I think that there might have been a window here to trade Erik Karlsson. I don't know where. Like, if you said, okay, it's fine, Erik Karlsson will get traded in the summer, I don't see the destination.
No, because to me, I would have said Edmonton. I would have said Ottawa. I mean, he still has his home there. But Ottawa doesn't have a pick in the draft until round 4 this year.
Correct.
So the return home for Karlsson probably wasn't there. I don't know where else. And obviously you have to retain salary too.
You'd have to retain or have someone broker or something like that. I mean, I'm sure, after this season, Arizona will have some brokerage room left. You could always do something there. But yeah, I just don't know if there's I don't see it make sense home. And you also have to keep in mind, Erik Karlsson has final say. Like, if he doesn't want to go somewhere, he can just be like, nope, that doesn't work for me, brother. And that would be it. So I don't know. I think that'll be the one thing that I'm fascinated to see in the offseason, because I think and who knows how far they got down the road with Edmonton, obviously, but it seemed like there was the framework of a deal there. And I just wonder if Mike Grier looks this summer and says, oops, I probably should have went after that a little harder. Although again, but again, does Erik Karlsson say, yeah, I'll go to Edmonton? There's no guarantee that would be a thing either. But I think it was something interesting to at least bring up.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure it can be thrown in there, but yeah, will be interesting. The draft will get even more interesting. The off season will get more interesting on there, especially since it's Erik Karlsson and most likely the front runner to win a Norris. I'll say this. Does he get to 100 points? 20 games to go, 22 points?
I think he gets close. I don't know if he gets to 100, but I think he gets at least, I think he gets 90. I don't know if he gets all the way to 100, but I think he gets 90.
If he gets 90, is it a lock for the Norris?
It should be. It should be, unless his game absolutely falls off a cliff between now and the end of the season. I think he should be a lock.
And with about 10 games left at home this season, do the Sharks get to 10 home wins?
I hope not. I mean, I feel bad for the people that continue to buy tickets to go to these games, but I mean, at this point, at this point, the trade deadline's over. You're in the home stretch. I would like the Sharks to be more entertaining than they've been in the last few games. I would like that. These last few games, like that Montreal game and that St. Louis game, those were hard games to watch. And I'm hoping that they can be somewhat entertaining and still lose a lot of games. But at this point in the season, right, there's no point in going on a run right now. They're so far out of it. We don't need to be, we don't need what happened in Vancouver last year when Bruce Boudreau came in and they shot up the standings for nothing. And then they missed, and then they're dog shit this year too. So, if you're a Vancouver fan, it was probably fun watching them kind of race to just miss, but what did that get them? Nothing. And then they were dog shit the next year anyway.
Yeah. Sharks, in case you haven't heard me say it, are the only team that haven't hit double-digit wins at home this year.
Yeah, tough
That's
for the SAP faithful. I sympathize. I just want them to be entertaining at this point. If the games continue to look like the last couple of games have looked, it's going to be a long end of the season. I don't know we should probably wrap this up.
Yep.
Overall thoughts. What is your overall thought about the Sharks, where they are now? I've apparently taken over hosting the show, people. What's your thoughts? I mean, as far as what the Sharks did this trade deadline, where they're at.
Well, since you're taking over hosting the show,
I'm apparently taking over hosted the show. I apologize.
Fuck that guy. There's a boatload of guys in the guys factory, and when the Sharks lose, it's good.
Yeah. All right. I like that role reversal. I think that worked really well.
I thought that was great. To the nearly 100 of you watching, we appreciate you immensely. Glenn Cave, just a couple of things we'll hit up in the chat and then we'll get out of here. Just streaming here, but how would EK65 look making that breakout pass to Connor Bedard next season?
For sure. And look and if that's the case, if I don't think the Sharks had to trade Erik Karlsson. I just think if that's the goal, if that was Mike Grier wanting to do that, then I think he missed his opportunity. I like Erik Karlsson. If Erik Karlsson stays here and the Sharks don't have to eat salary for 4 years or whatever it is left on his deal at, significant amount of salary, I'm fine with that too. I was just looking at it from the perspective of if this was in Mike Grier's plans that Erik Karlsson had to go, then I think he fucked up.
Yeah. Amanda, as long as they lose the wrong way, right? Yeah. As long as they lose in regulation, not none of
correct.
This
lose in regulation, be somewhat entertaining. Lose in regulation. No more loser points.
Yeah.
No more shootouts.
So we'll see what happens now. Final 20 coming up for the Sharks. That'll happen starting Saturday afternoon. Reminder, it is a 3 p.m. start for Sharks in Washington. Ovechkin might break the record tomorrow in San Jose. Who knows? At this point. In case you missed anything,
wait. We gotta do overall thoughts here. We didn't
overall.
I tried to put a bone up for you, and then I'm supposed to kick it back to me.
Overall thoughts.
I think overall here, did the Sharks do good at the deadline? I think they just did okay.
Yeah.
I look at what the Sharks did, and I think in a bubble, I think it's fine. But if I look at a team like what Nashville did, I've never felt any longing for the Nashville Predators of all teams, but man, I kind of want what they got this trade deadline.
Yeah, big time. They were able to move assets. They were able to pick up a boatload of picks, prospects, cleared out some cap space. Barry Trotz is going to walk in like, I own this place, and now I can do whatever the hell I want. Mike Grier, you have $846,000 left of cap space for this season.
Yeah,
it's
just okay, and I don't know what, it's crazy that we're almost a year into this now. We're coming up to a year into Mike Grier's tenure, and I still don't really have a good feel for what he's doing. Not and I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't see. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what he says that he wants to kind of do a quick turnaround. So and maybe it's the answer is staring me in the face and I just refuse to accept it. I don't know. I look at this and I'm like, what are we doing here, really?
Yeah.
And like I said, maybe the answer is staring me in the face and I just don't want to accept that that's the answer. I think that could be a thing too.
A lot of things go away if the Sharks are selecting number 1 in June. Let's be honest here. It kind of flips the franchise. I mean, there might be actually an influx of free agents that might want to come to San Jose, which has never happened before, really, in franchise history. So
not the big fish anyway. We'll see.
No, not the big fish, but at least some supportive pieces to to add on. So we'll see where it goes. And the team believes they aren't that far away. I mean, you're 2 points out of last. I think you're a little bit far away with the prospect pool that's been rough. So, all right.
That they don't like either.
Yeah, exactly. In case you missed anything or you want to watch this again, check us out on tealtownusa.com or wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple, Google, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Odyssey. Of course, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, please hit that like button. 26 people? Come on now.
More importantly, hit that subscribe button because we're almost at 3,000 and I want this to be a thing.
Yes, we want to get to 3K. That's been our goal since the beginning of the season. Of course, hit that notification bell. That's when we go live after every Sharks game. Acknowledge us at 7 p.m. on Sunday, Pacific time. And whenever news breaks like this, we'll bring it to you right here on the YouTube channel here at Teal Town USA. So, Ian, thank you very much. We will resume our normal days off. This is rare for both of us. I'm usually just getting home from work. I don't know how I'm going to get to San Jose tomorrow for a 3 p.m. game, but we'll figure that out due to time. But thanks for watching. Appreciate each and every one of you. We'll see where this leads for the final 20 of the season. And until then, keep it real, keep it Teal, keep it real Teal. Have a great Friday, everyone. We'll see you this weekend.